So I'm here this afternoon to present a brief overview of how to compare cloud-based VM protection costs. Slide forwards. There we go. I'll start with a quick overview of why you may want to use the cloud for backup and disaster recovery. Do 2 or 3 examples of how to compare costs at a high level, as well as key factors to consider when comparing costs of providing cloud-based protection. And then Greg will actually give you a quick 5 to 10 minute demo of 2 tools that provide for very easy setup and use of public cloud targets for backup and archiving data sets and for disaster recovery as a service. Then the presentation with an open discussion that we'll conduct by reading the chat questions that have been sent in to us. So, surprise, why many companies today are using cloud-based virtual machine protection. Surprise, of course, that local disasters can happen. As a result of that, provide a second site, especially for smaller customers that can't afford to build one on their own, is handy. Provide VM-based protection in public clouds to contain or reduce your local site costs. So not just eliminating that second or third site, many customers have told us that they're actually reducing their physical infrastructure even in their primary site, in some cases permanently migrating VMs to a public cloud and parking them there for use as needed, or spinning them up and eliminating their local VM. Will help to contain costs on both the software virtualization and, of course, the physical infrastructure side. All cloud vendors offer many geo-based location alternatives. For example, AWS, Amazon Web Services, has 11 geographic regions around the world. I believe Azure has upwards of 17, and I know that Google is in multiple geographies as well. And finally, a lot of flexibility in terms of what you do in these public clouds, in terms of allowing backup data copies to lie idle and lower cost storage, or spinning up the VMs to run live, which of course provides a better recovery time, and even taking advantage of the elastic compute capabilities that all these vendors provide, and scaling up your machine class to run disaster recovery as a service even faster. Considerations that you'll want to look at when you're comparing costs across these various public clouds. The thing to get a handle on is what your use case is. As you all probably know, there are various ways of providing backup, recovery, and disaster recovery as a service and business continuity. The faster your recovery time, typically the so lower or lowest recovery time objective points typically come with them the higher cost or the highest cost for live server spin-up. Various options for backup and recovery only, and this is basically an area where you're backing up a VM to a lower cost storage point in one of these public clouds. It provides perhaps the lowest cost, but also you're dealing with higher recovery times as a result of that. Disaster recovery as a service can be higher, but maybe not as high as live online all the time, spun up servers. Typically comes with a higher cost, but you also have more options in terms of recovery point as well as recovery time, depending on the architecture that you deploy and the applications that you use. Another consideration, of course, is your own individual growth plans. Well published in the industry that data tends to be growing at an average of about 50% a year, to be factored into what your ongoing costs will be for using public clouds. And of course, your compute needs will escalate as well, perhaps not linearly with data growth, but certainly tightly related with data growth as you're using these applications. And then finally, as you get into the details of which machines you're going to move to the cloud really need to start looking at CPU, puts and gets, and application types dimensions in how you're going to estimate your costs. In the storage, there's multiple storage classes, even within a single cloud provider. For example, AWS offers a simple storage service, S3, that has two classes, an inactively used and a regular S3 class. And they also have their Glacier archive. Google has nearline storage as well as, which is lower cost, as well as their online storage embedded within their Google infrastructure, cloud platform infrastructure. As far as POs go, most of the vendors will actually give you small, medium, or large machine classes, and within those classes, various sizes of CPU that you can choose, or in some cases will be assigned to you based on the application profile. There's the inevitable get requests, put requests, and transfers out of data that you've moved into the cloud that need to be considered. In cases, early withdrawal of storage from some of these vendors actually will incur a penalty cost. The application types within the VMs need to be considered. We've seen in multiple occasions that Windows tend to be more compute intensive and therefore tend to be a little bit more expensive than Linux applications, for example. So like when you begin to compare these costs at a high level and compare vendors. Well, a couple of examples here in the next two slides, just to give you a high-level view of how costs could be compared across major cloud, public cloud vendors, AWS, Google, and Azure. Example, we've taken a server that has a configuration which is either a medium or large size class. There's 32 gig, and we're dealing with a terabyte of online storage. You can monthly costs to provide that kind of online capability vary, of course, between Linux and Windows. Linux a little less expensive. The vendors can vary greatly, with Google, in this example, being the lowest cost provider. Storage-only configuration, so this is writing either a VM or data to a low-cost storage platform, such as S3 or Nearline or a blob storage capability with Azure. The costs they tend to be a little bit more standardized in terms of monthly costs. In the case of AWS, the $31 actually is for the highest tier in S3. So you do about 3 cents a gig a month with vendors. And if you put together the server and the storage and, of course, the networking, load balancing, all the elements required, I use as this last example a typical hosting, a web hosting example that would include the same configuration server that I showed on the last slide, but in load balancing, I've added another terabyte of non-active storage sitting in a Nearline or S3-like configuration. I've lowered the cost, been able to lower the cost slightly, the monthly cost, by implementing a one-year contract. So that's a one-year commit with these vendors. And oftentimes the vendors will offer price breaks for one-year commits versus month-to-month usage. In this case, you'll see here is in a fully hosted environment, AWS, Amazon comes in at the lowest cost point both for Linux and Windows as compared across the three major public cloud providers. Now, these are fairly straightforward to estimate at a high level. The slide I showed you, I actually built from an independent website called Alvarado. You can see the web URL for Alvarado on the screen now. It's a great starting point for comparisons across many vendors. Over 100 public cloud providers are included in these costs if you choose to use that many. And there are various examples and dimensions that you can choose, not just the storage and compute or hosting, usually look at network and contract length and things of that sort as well. So you can get a pretty good rough and tough estimate for what your operating costs are going to be by looking at Alvarado. And then the next step is, as you're honing in on who you may want to choose as a public cloud vendor, you actually go to their sites and see whether or not they have cost estimating tools, the sites that are readily available for you. AWS, again, URL posted here, a very detailed monthly calculator. It's interactive. It allows you to choose many different dimensions, even add applications such as the RD application or the RDS application that AWS has for database. So you can get a detailed monthly calculation, and it's highly interactive. So make changes as necessary and see the differences in cost. We're, again, the site posted a more basic monthly calculator. It is interactive, and it does allow you to play the various options out, a little less detailed than what you would see with AWS. And then Google, they actually have pricing charts as well, but they do not yet have an interactive cost estimating model, at least not that I can find on their website. But they do provide a basic overview of the options, so you can get a feeling for what the cost would be in that kind of a public cloud setting. For the last 5 minutes about operating costs, specifically for deploying a backup and disaster recovery environment in a public cloud. But there are other key considerations that need to be looked at as well. And really, most of these dimensions are not available to evaluate costing considerations on the various vendor sites. You really need to have a feeling for how important availability or uptime is for you. There would be performance differences, including the access time as well as just the CPU utilization. You're actually providing your own security or going to leverage perhaps a for-charge security application on one of the public cloud sites. Enabling applications may be at your disposal as you migrate these applications or VMs to the various sites, such as databases and analytics, reporting engines and billing engines, things of that sort. And perhaps most importantly, the last two dimensions, do vendors lock you in? Can I get my VMs and data back? Should I choose to cover them in my local environment if I decide to continue to run in a hybrid cloud fashion? And what are the switching costs to do that? Is there much manual labor involved? I have to reformat my data. And then migration costs. If you're actually migrating a VM manually, it can take up to 20 hours per VM. At AWS reInvent conference a couple of weeks ago, and I heard one of the presenters act a live actual customer example of 470, I believe, VMs that were migrated at an average of 5.6 hours per VM, and the migration cost was over $550,000. So in these third-party tools can certainly help cut the time, the manual time to migrate, and in many cases the overall cost as well. To be considered that typically you won't find in the costing estimators in these various websites. So with mind, what I'd like to do at this point is hand the baton over to Keith Boland, our Senior Director of Advanced Engineering, to give you an example of one of the tools that we find most helpful with customers in helping them migrate and then provide a very simple dashboard-based disaster recovery as a service tool. And then, Keith, when you're done, if you would hand to Greg, and he can show how to actually access the Google Cloud Platform as well. Keith?
Okay, thanks, Troy. So welcome, everyone. So I've shared my browser here. This is the dashboard of our tool called Boomerang. Boomerang is a product that will monitor VMware virtual machines Amazon Web Services, for two primary use cases. One is for a disaster recovery use case, and the other is for a migration use case. As Roy was pointing out, the cost-effective way to take advantage of the cloud platforms is to use the low-cost storage, in this case the S3 storage. What Boomerang does is take a lot of the VMware VMs and replicate them straight to S3 storage. So that is the absolutely cost-effective way to get machines into the cloud. It's what we call a pilot-like design, meaning that you don't have to have an active running instance in the cloud to get your virtual machines over there. And use those virtual machines in S3 as simply a backup mechanism. You can bring them back, or with Boomerang, you can spin them up in the cloud, and it will model all of your local VMware components into AWS components. So it'll create your EC2 instances, your EBS volumes, VPCs, and Elastic Block, and Elastic IP addresses. I'll give a quick demo of how that works. The dashboard up here. So you notice on the dashboard, the core concept is something that we call a protection group. Protection group is a group of virtual machines you want to snapshot and replicate together. So you can think in terms of an application. You may have a database server and a web server that you want to run and fail over as a group. You run those in a protection group. To create a protection group, just click here. The thing I'm going to do is select a profile, and we have on our website an instructional video for how to install this from scratch and set up the profile. The profile is basically a mapping between your vCenter credentials and your AWS credentials. So I could have different profiles for different Amazon regions if I wanted to replicate to different regions for redundancy purposes. I'll give this protection group a name, and I'm going to say that I want to specify settings. Settings here, if I'm in the disaster recovery use case, what I want to do is do periodic backups to keep those virtual machines up to date in the cloud. Once I'm in the cloud, I can specify how long I want to keep the snapshots. Let's say I want to keep them for about 30 days and then delete them. I create a schedule. I can either use a hand schedule here to say we want to do it one every hour or once a day. What I always like to demo is this custom schedule here, just to show you the flexibility we have in scheduling. If you look at that syntax, it kind of reminds you of cron syntax, but if you're a little rusty on how syntax works, you can just pull up our knowledge base article that explains it. And here's a website that has some examples. So I'm going to this says back up at 10:15 every day. And just going to plop that in here. And then we have this link that will decode it for you, and sure enough, it tells you the schedule is going to run at 10:15 every day. I can add tags to my components once they're replicated, so this may be a tag specifying the department or owner, or is flexible, infinitely flexible to however you want to tag components up there. So when you see the instances in the cloud, you can know metadata about them. Mail notifications, so you get notifications when replications or deployments happen. And all you have to do is come down and pick the the virtual machines you want. I'm going to pick an Exchange VM. And the VM I have here, and I just click. It creates a protection group. I'm going to switch to another protection group well, let me just show you here. When I go in a protection group, you see I have different options. The first option we have is to replicate. I could hit replicate, wait until the schedule fires, or I could hit replicate now. So I'm going to go back to a machine that's replicating even as we speak. You see that it has a replication in progress here, and view the details of that, and second to pull up, and here's a virtual machine that's about 25% replicated. But it has some previous snapshots that I've replicated up before. So I can choose a snapshot that I want to deploy up in the cloud. The thing about Boomerang is if you don't know a lot about Amazon, or you're just new to it, there's a lot of components here. We'll do all this for you. So we'll create VPCs for you. The VPC is really called Virtual Private Cloud. It's a container for networking. So, for example, if I have a group of machines that are on the same vSwitch and VMware, it will remodel those components so that they're in the same VPC up in the cloud. You have a VPC for certain security reasons that you want to use. You can, of course, pick one. Here's virtual machines. Boomerang has chosen the Amazon instances that map to the size of the virtual machines in your VMware infrastructure. I can change that. For example, if I'm just testing, I may want to go with a smaller instance, or if I'm going into production, I can choose the larger instance. I can allocate a public IP address, or if I want to keep it in private, I could keep it and connect a VPN to it. I have multiple virtual machines. I can choose a launch order. For example, if I did have the database server, I could spin that up before my web server, and it will spin them up in the cloud in that order. And then, if I'm ready to spin up, all I have to do is hit that deploy button. Magic happens. Boomerang will go out and create all components for you. As I said, it will create the EB volumes, the EC2 instances, the VPCs, and the elastic IP addresses. And when it's, you can go out there on AWS, and you'll have instances out in the cloud that are spun up. If it's in the cloud, then anything you can do with the Amazon infrastructure as far as security groups or whatever, you have complete control over that. As I said, Boomerang will create all that for you. So that's about it. Very to use, and we have a help on our website with demos and knowledge forum. I'm going to pass the ball now over to Greg. Okay.
I'm going to show you the lab that we have. We have set up the Unitrends free product here. And there we go. So this is the Unitrends free product, and you download it as a real client, and you deploy that into VM Hyper-V as a virtual appliance, and you attach storage to it. And you're going to be able to back up your virtual environment, VMware Hyper-V at Hyper-V level, or VMware level, taking snapshots of the virtual machines, writing into the storage. Now, once you've deployed this product into your hypervisor, you're going to browse to it with your web page and your web browser to the web page, and it's going to give you this main dashboard here. I'll briefly go over the different parts on this dashboard. I'll go through the rest of the product here. But what you're going to see on the main dashboard here, this will show that this is the unit trends for Google Cloud Platform, and you'll see a summary area here. It's going to show today the backups and going to show you information about the speed, size, the writing, the compression. I'm going to give you some graphs. It's going to tell you how many VMs are protected or not protected. Over here on the right, you have an option to connect into the Unitrends community. Now, this is a good way for IT professionals to have a direct link right into the community forums. You just set up a free account. I've logged in here with my free account, and it's going to show you different posts in our community that may be helpful. You can do a search. You can read through different posts if you're having some questions or some issues, possibly someone else has had the same problem. You can also post new information, possibly about what you would like to see in the product, because this product is community driven. The dashboard, the way it works, has been a combination of a lot of different requests from different customers. They say, hey, I want it to work this way. This would be a great way to back up my product and have it working this way. So this is a result of that to the community, and this is a direct link into it. Also have a daily feed into our Twitter feed, and you can see all of our different posts here for different people in the company and different people posting about trends. In the middle, active jobs. Right now we don't have any. Down here at the bottom, you're going to see information about the storage, where you're writing the backups to. Now notice I have an internal storage because that's where I'm initially going to write my backups to. I'll show you in the configuration section when I get to that in a couple minutes, but it's directed to storage. I've added virtual disks to the appliance, and I can grow the storage. With the Unitrends free product, we can back up to 1.5 terabytes of data. So you can add virtual disks to the appliance to grow your storage as you need to. And then we also have a connection into the Google Cloud Storage. This is where we're going to copy our backups to for off-site copies, for term retention, for disaster recovery, where we're going to see information about the storage. If you hover over, you'll see how much is used, how much is allocated. Now, from here, I'm just going through a couple sections here. On the protect side, on this left-hand pane, we're going to see what we are protecting. Currently, we are connected into our vCenter. We have multiple vCenters here, multiple hosts. You may have Hyper-V listed here. You can back up as many VMs as you want, as long as you can fit it into 1 terabyte. So now what I've highlighted the top level, I can drill down, I can see all the VMs, I can see my resource pools, and this is a result. We have one machine we're backing up here. We're also copying it up to this Google Cloud. This is a listing of the days of the backups, and if you hover over this and click on it, this gives you information about the backup, whether it's success or failure. You can drill down even deeper and look at the logs. You may need that for troubleshooting. The data here is on the Protect page. You have at-a-glance view of your environment, what's being protected and what's not. These are not being protected. This one is being protected. There's some basic functionality up here. You can create a backup job, create a backup copy job, create a recovery job, right for this Protect page. For backing up, we have more functionality here on the recover section. I'm going to list our backup catalog here. And each machine we're backing up is going to have a history of how many times it was backed up. We're going to see here, if we take a look, this was backed up today. Was you backed on the Unitrends clients. This is our host that we were reading from, connecting to, and this is the type of backup. It was an incremental. We're going to see our different types of backups. And if you notice, some of these are blue. Now, these are back copy jobs. So we cover over here. It tells us what it is. This is a backup. This is a copy. And this is actually forwarded backup. So once you back up you're going to copy it to the Google Cloud Search. And let's say you back up for a few months. This data down here is eventually going to possibly be removed due to retention. Or maybe you actually had a disaster. Maybe you've lost your main site. Have backup copies up in the cloud, and they're going to show up here. If you those, and I've already done that, what you're going to do is you're going to select the backup copy, and you can import that back to the source. It's going to show up as a backup job, and then from here, you can do different types of recoveries. So a full VM recovery. I can recover files from that VM. Now, I don't need to recover the entire VM, log into it, browse and copy files out. I can just expose the disks, browse through the file system, and then copy and paste out the files I need. So we can do file level recovery. Also do instant recovery. Fairly similar to a full recovery. Full recovery, the data can be written back to the host. When it's done, you spin up and you can access it. Recovery. What it's doing is it's going to use the host, VMware Hyper-V host, to present that virtual machine, but the storage is still on the appliance. The difference is that VM is accessible immediately. It spins it up from the backup storage. So for VMware, we present out an NFS data store from the appliance to VMware, Hyper-V and SMB share. We present that, and then in the background, the data is going to copy to production storage. It's going to have that eventually written into your production storage for use, but the difference is it's critical that you can access it immediately. And recoveries are going to show up here. We have one level recovery. Recoveries, if you have instant recoveries, they're going to show up listed here, any live instant recoveries. So the back catalog, this is the point at where you're going to view all your different backups and you're going to do your restores from. Very simple. Basically, you're just going to choose the time. I'll go through briefly. You're going to choose your target host. If the source pools, we're going to pick our source pools. We're going to pick our data store. Next. We can fix if we want. This gives us a summary. We hit save, and that will start our restore. Very simple. So, quick recovery section. If we can hear the jobs, this is where all of our jobs are going to be listed. Active jobs. This is our manager tab. This is where all of the are going to be listed. Jobs. You can create a job here. You can create backup, instant recovery, backup copy jobs. There's a lot of reports you can run, different categories. Back category, recovery category, appliance, information about the appliances, report, information about the storage. Now come down to configure. This is where you initially are going to come in and you're going to add storage. So now this is our Unitrends-free appliance. This is our internal storage. I've already added it, so I can't show you the add button, but I can show you the add button. And this is where we're going to allocate instant recovery. And one thing I want to show you here is this is how we can grow our storage. Right, this is an attached disk. We can to the appliance or show up here. We highlight them and click add to the pool of storage to grow our storage. copy, this is where Google comes into play. That we backed up to secondary location, we're going to our Google Cloud Storage. We already have storage listed here, but if you didn't add the target, this is how you're going to do it. You're going to choose your Google Cloud Storage, and this is your information that you're going to get from your account. You put that in here. You can also create storage threshold. When you set up your backup copy job, the data will be copied to this Google Cloud Storage. And the Appliances tab, this is information about the appliances, protected assets, what you're going to protect in your environment. Right here. Gives us in about what we could have a Hyper-V host. We can another VMware host. We can have as many as we want here. And for 2.5 terabytes of data. So, I'm going to brief overview of everything. And I guess that's about it for the Friends-free product.
That was Greg, and thank again, Keith, for your demo as well on Boomerang. So, might be active again, is it? There we go. And Greg for the live tools demo. Very active and inexpensive ways of providing cloud-based backup and discovery of the service. Before today, I just wanted to put a word in for our sponsor. Unitrends, the parent company for both Boomerang and for Unitrends Free for Google Cloud Platform, provide cloud-empowered all-in-one data protection solutions that reach your IT confidence. We actually recover more than just your data. We allow you to recover your time of day, your peace of mind, and many other things. We enable customers to quickly and simply recover IT infrastructure anytime, anywhere, anyplace. We're a channel-oriented company. Over the last 2 decades, more than 15,000 customers, 100% customer satisfaction rating, and many consecutive quarters of record revenue growth. So, of Unitrends, you can find a lot more about us on unitrends.com. You can get else about Boomerang at boomerang.com, including information, an FAQ, and a blog, a forum, and a multitude of free trial options. And to locate Unitrends Free for Google Cloud Platform, a free download is available from unitrends.com website using your URL listed. At this point, with 20 minutes left, open it up for Q&A. One of the first questions that came in, and my apologies for this, was a question about accessing the Alvarado website. I just, or one of the attendees noticed a typo in the URL. It should be Alvarado, CLOUDORADO. And that's you right to the home page for Alvarado. The Cloud Computing Comparison Engine will be the page that shows up. The next came in. You talk about storage-only costs. You actually compare some of the more detailed storage options that are available from vendors like Google, Amazon. Do you have any more details on that? Well, I can give you an overview of some of the breakdowns of the various storage tiers for both Amazon and Google. I would encourage you to go onto the individual vendors' websites as well, but the prices tend to be changing rapidly. In the case of Amazon, their tiers actually are in 3 buckets. There's the standard S3 tier, which I believe is about 3 cents a gig a month. About a month and a half ago, Amazon offered a new tier within S3 called IA, Inactively Accessed, I believe, and that at 1.25 cents per gig per month. And Glacier, which is basically an archive storage tier, now reduced in price at about 0.07 cents, per gig per month. These compare with the Google Nearline storage, which actually has a faster access than Glacier and comes in at just over the Glacier price at around a penny a gig a month. The next one, I half answered it. How often do these costs change? I believe Amazon has issued 3 or 4 dozen price changes in the last couple of years alone. So they're very, very actively and aggressively competing in the market for lower costs and flexibility in the types of storage and compute that they'll be able to offer, so that you can get a very granular cost as well as profile based on your application needs. Another question, what are public cloud costs? How can I determine those? Examples were Cloud Air and Rackspace. Again, go to the Alvarado site. They actually list a number of different, dozens of different public cloud companies' pricing to the extent that it's available. In some cases, the public cloud providers won't actually list their prices online, so you would have to reach out to someone to get more details. This should be available. I haven't actually looked at the vCloud Air or Rackspace sites, but it wouldn't surprise me if they don't have cost estimators of some fashion in their sites as well. Another question. Where does software or virtual machines sit? How does it authenticate the private on-site cloud? Keith, take that one.
So you deploy the boomerang appliance on the source side. It sits, it's another VM appliance on your vCenter. You download it as an OVA. So you're going to give it credentials to both your vCenter and your Amazon secret key that you get from Amazon so that it can authenticate with the cloud. It's going to sit in the source side. Now, if you have a complete disaster and lose your source side, what you can do before is actually what we call boomerang. You migrate the boomerang appliance up to the cloud, deploy it, and then shut it down. If you have a disaster, you don't have your source side at all, you can spin it up in the cloud and deploy your other VMs from there.
Looks like a related question to that. Also, if the VM in the cloud, a lot of storage IOs or transfers lots of data with other VMs in the public cloud, how does that affect the cost?
So once you have deployed a VM and it's actually running as an instance, most clouds, including Amazon, you just charge an hourly rate of that instance, and it's independent of the number of IOs. Now, if you need, depending on the type of instance, if you need a beefier instance or whatever, it will cost you more per hour.
Another question, so I think this starts with you but ends with Keith. The question was related to the demo that Greg, I guess, did with Unitrends Free, which is a local backup solution that provides also a cloud target as an option. The Keith, is Boomerang an all-cloud backup and migration tool? Does it offer any local, and then how does it coexist with any local backup solutions that may already be deployed?
Boomerang is a cloud backup tool, so it can sit beside your local backup solution, either Unitrends Free or any other backup product. So Boomerang will take snapshots of VMs and replicate them to the cloud, and it's charged on a per VM basis, independent of the size of those VMs.
Note just came in. During the presentation on cost estimation, you talked about the migration cost, the one-time migration cost in some cases being very high, in the number of dollars per manual VM to be migrated. How much does the tools cost compare into that migration, or is the overhead of the labor that's the highest cost? That one, from what I saw at the presentation at AWS, is a good example. If I remember correctly, 2/3 of the cost of migration is people expense, and the remaining 1/3 is either tool cost or cost of other types. Now, in that case, the tool costs can vary greatly. There are companies that offer one-time migration only tools for a couple $100 per VM or less. In the case of Boomerang, it's $99.95, so even less expensive. So it does vary, but the predominant cost, the overhead of manually migrating the VM, as you saw with the two tools that we demoed, we can dramatically reduce that cost by automating the VM replication, migration, and of course spin up for disaster recovery. In the Boomerang specifically, we had one client migrated 70 VMs, 70 VMs over a weekend, all in an automated fashion. They basically set them up on a Friday evening, push go, and came back on a Monday morning, and about 10 terabytes had been migrated along with the VM successfully. So these automated tools really can cut the cost, the overhead cost of the manual migration down significantly. Any other questions? And we still have about 8 minutes to the top of the hour, but that's fine. At this point, what I'd like to do, if there are no other questions, thank everyone for attending today. And as Mark was saying during the introduction of the webinar, we will provide a link to this webinar and the slides. You're happy to reach out. We're happy to have you reach out to us if you have any additional questions. Thanks for your attention and participation this afternoon. Have a great day, everybody.